We've got to move this industry forward. We have to break down the silos between developers and designers and contractors. Like, we're literally designing and building and shaping communities and the planet.
As Ian said, I'm Bassem Ammouri, and I lead what's called energy management software at Schneider Electric. And we'll define that portfolio in a moment. So I'm here to talk about a partnership between Schneider and Autodesk. And I think a lot of you have probably heard about Autodesk before. I think less of you until this conference may have known about Schneider Electric, but because we effectively brought 10% of our entire employee base, you're going to meet somebody from Schneider during this conference. So we are an energy management technology company. We are the global specialist in energy management and industrial automation, as you heard from Shonadi this morning. And we bring in an electrical energy focus to the AEC space. We believe that we do. And we've kind of materialized this through a number of acquisitions and investments and partnerships in some software companies in the space. So that's what I'll focus on today. And we're going to work, as we go through this portfolio, I'm going to work from the operate phase back to the design phase, and that's where we'll focus today on what's called BIM Electric Corp. But I wanted to start and define kind of the rest of the portfolio, which was not my original intent, but then during Shonadi's presentation, he said, hey, Bassem's going to talk about this. Bassem wasn't going to talk about that, but now Bassem's going to talk about that. So we start in the operate and maintain phase. We are a centuries-old provider of electrical equipment, right? Circuit breakers, transformers, anything that takes power from the point of generation to the point of use and helps you manage that whole journey. We, on top of that, on top of the hardware, we have what's called our EcoStruxure Advisor platform. So it's an IoT platform that communicates with the meters, with the breakers, with the trip units in this equipment. Right? So it's all based, it's software, but it's based on our hardware portfolio. So it's not vendor agnostic. It's pretty specific to our Schneider ecosystem. And that's great, and that's a very proud footprint that we have, and that's a solution that we still market in the market today. But what we realized is that in order to truly scale and become a better partner, digital partner to our customers, we need to make our portfolio more agnostic. Right? We're not going to be the only electrical equipment provider in the company or in a space, in our customer's space. We need to make our equipment and our software interoperable with others, right? Very kind of basic concept there. So we've started over the last 18 months investing and partnering with a number of the logos that you see on the screen here. So I'll start with ETAP. So ETAP is a electrical digital twin software. So this enables you to view and interact with your electrical system through an interactive model, which we call the electrical digital twin. So you've seen a single line diagram. Me and Eric were laughing earlier about, up until recently, electrical single line schematics existed on paper, these big plotter papers that you print out and pin to your wall. ETAP enables you to digitize that and bring it into your computer, right? And it's a collaborative model so that multiple people can access it, update it. And there's a lot of benefits that go along with that constant update, that always on, always accurate model. And that's created a number of different ways for us to go to market with the rest of our business. So if we have an interactive model, we can become closer, we can provide better service to our customers. So that's what we call an electrical digital twin. Now, digital twin is one of those words that's kind of used loosely. So I'll use it loosely here with Plan-On. So Plan-On is another digital twin software, completely different concept here. So it's more of a building management system. So it's a IWMS, if anyone's familiar with this term. We've invested in this software to kind of build out our capabilities around building management. So less electrical, more mechanical, focused on AC, optimization, lighting, surveillance, security systems. So it's kind of a consolidator of data from a number of different systems that help building owners understand how are people moving around the building, what's our security, what's our carbon footprint of this building, what's our lighting consumption. So these types of insights are brought by PlanOn. So working back into the build phase, so this is kind of the new phase for Schneider, if you will. So we're usually interacting with projects when we receive a request for quote, right? This enables us to now partner earlier in the construction lifecycle. So RIB is a construction management software kind of conglomerate. There's a number of different logos that fall within RIB, and we'll hear about some of those tomorrow. We have Damon in the room with us. Hi, Damon. And we'll do a session tomorrow about RIB. But essentially, RIB is a BIM-based construction management platform, all focused on capturing and organizing and using data. So if we can learn from projects A, B, and C, how did the construction process go, and make project D much more efficient, that's the sort of insights that we're trying to capture with RIB. I was talking with Adam from JetBuild yesterday about the importance of capturing that data. So a lot of different great offers in the space, all trying to solve that problem. And now we'll move into the design phase. So this is where we'll focus for the rest of today, and it's all about our BIM Electric Corp, which we formed with Autodesk. So we believe around the design phase that Schneider brings a unique expertise to make the design process more electrically focused and make us better in the operate phase at using our energy, and the only way to do that is to design for an optimized use of electricity. Okay, so I grew up watching Captain Planet, and I like to think about this as the with our powers combined slide. So we as Schneider Electric have partnered with Autodesk to align and create a solution that better enables the design, the efficient design, sustainable design around the electrical infrastructure of the built environment. So we're what's called a alliance partner. There's a number of different ways to partner with Autodesk. And we think that we bring a number of different expertise to a number of the challenges that Shonadeep talked about this morning. So he talked about the hurricanes, right? The climate catastrophes that we're all seeing and feeling, and the result oftentimes is power outages. So we talked about hurricanes in Florida. For me, I'm originally from Texas, and if you remember the cold wave that we had in Texas, I guess, sometime last year, both of my parents lived there, and both of them were out of power for over a week, right? And you think, why does this have to happen, right? Why weren't they able to self-generate? Why weren't they able to have storage on site, right? These are problems that are avoidable, yet we kind of walk into them time and time again. So as those types of catastrophes continue to rise, we can get better at designing and preparing for them. That's sort of the drive behind this. So like we said, Autodesk is present in the space, a big name, and then we bring the electrical expertise. So that's kind of our combined value. And one key piece, and this is where we'll ask a question to the audience, one key kind of relationship driver for us is the focus on sustainability. So as Shonadeep said, we were awarded by Corporate Knights in 2020 the title of world's most sustainable company. We dropped to 4th most sustainable company in 2021, and 3rd on that list was Autodesk. So it's not too bad that our partner beat us on that rank. So together we definitely want to focus on sustainability, and we think that one way to do this is through enhancing the design of buildings. So one concept that my team always laughs at me is I use the term tangible a lot. Sustainability is a big word, but how do we make that tangible? Right? How are we actually making our projects more sustainable? And I think this answers that question, but I wanted to bring in some folks from the audience and ask kind of how are some other folks in the room making sustainability tangible? And I want to call on Camilo. Is Camilo in the room? Okay, good deal. And before I call on Camilo, I want to tell a story. So last night, we finished up the 3-hour happy hour, me and the Schneider Army that's here, and we hadn't eaten before that happy hour, so that was a mistake. And we're wandering around Asheville, 9 p.m. It's cold. We're maybe stumbling a little bit, and we're getting turned away by restaurants, and everywhere is closed, right? kind of a small town. So we get to Curate, and we want to go into Curate, and they're telling us they're not seeding anymore. So luckily, we look over and we see Camilo, we see NK, we see Shashwat. We see Shashank, and they flag us over. So very kind, thank you for doing that. And as a repayment, I'm going to embarrass you in front of this entire group. So how are you, please tell us about your business and tell us how you're making sustainability part of your value proposition.
Well, having you guys at our table was part of our sustainable program to expand our seating arrangement at the restaurant. But Camilo and I are based out of Florida. I founded my company 11 years ago in civil engineering undergrad at Florida State University. Today we're a fully vertically integrated construction and real estate development company. 8 figures in sustained revenue over the last 4 years. We're on track to be a 9-figure revenue in the next 24 months. So I actually get to see sustainability from both angles. From a real estate development standpoint, it's part of our personal choice and moral obligation. I want to provide my impact to make this world, a better place. From the construction standpoint, we don't really get to have a say-so. So capital follows the ESG regulations, and by that I mean to say, if the customer is not willing to pay the price for the better product, it's not our choice, right? I do want to help, but we have to be profitable as a construction company. I see that on the federal sector. About 30% of our construction revenue right now is in federal projects that we do for different DoD agencies. And we've seen in a lot of areas where, for example, the legal requirements and the specifications, they see that it adds a certain percentage cost to the contract, and they say, well, this is not a requirement, let's just drop it. So I think as the world is making the shift to slowly into being a more ESG conscious environment, it's going to be just a normal social expectation, and I think it's going to come from both angles, where regulations at the very top, through tax incentives, asking the big Blackstone's PGIMs of the world, and then at the smaller level where everybody now feels that it's what it's normal and standard, and I think that's when we're going to get there. So.
Excellent. Any reactions? Any comments? Thank you. So during the happy hour last night, we also got the chance to talk a lot to Robert from MBU, and please flag me down. Thank you. So same question, if you could just tell us a bit about your business and then the sustainability value proposition that works within it.
So MBU is a smart building platform specifically targeted at multifamily residential. And what we do is our installers and partners go in and put IoT devices, including smart thermostats, sensors, central building controls as well, pretty much in every piece of equipment in every space in the building. So it's really a whole building monitoring and optimization. We do both control, not just monitoring, which is essential really in multifamily because they don't have extra sustainability staff and engineering staff sitting around looking at glass screens and running things. So we really enable people with our smartphone app to really control that building. Now, sustainability has always been part of the reason we started it. So it's always been one of our key factors. But what's interesting is early on, we would lead on dollars and cents, on energy savings, on staff productivity, all of the values that you get out of a smart building platform, and almost pull back from the sustainability piece. In fact, it was very interesting listening to Roland earlier talking about a mission essential to their story and how a lot of folks doing ESG are, it's coming from marketing, right? Mm-hmm. I think there was a period when it was almost the opposite for a lot of mission-driven companies in the sustainability space. They almost had to de-emphasize that to be successful in the market. We've seen a real sea change, I would say, in the last 12 to 18 months. What has happened is our real estate customers, their investors, or their C-suite has started to emphasize and be very proactive on the sustainability side. Mm-hmm. The value prop has not changed. So we have to save money and make money just like we said before. But the mission element of it is an extra accelerator really for adoption. And I think that's really what we're seeing.
Thank you. I think that's a really good quote. quote, that last sentence there. I think we need to be more efficient, more cost-focused, just the same, and then the sustainability element is kind of that extra push.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think there's the mantra coming out lately that every job is a climate job, or every business is a climate business.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity for companies that are just building the best product in their market. That also happens to be moving into climate change.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you. You've got the contractor perspective and then the real estate developer perspective. So I won't review this slide that Shonadip showed this morning. But one interesting stat that I like to point out is the top 4 hyperscaler cloud provider partnerships that we have at Schneider. You actually cannot be online for more than 6 minutes without pinging a data center that's powered by Schneider Electric. So we're heavy there. And I think the other takeaway is that depending on the segment, I think the sustainability story looks and feels different. And we like to believe that we understand the various segments that we serve here that are reflected on the slide. So a couple trends, and then we'll get into the actual solution that I wanted to share with you all today. Today we're seeing 2 kind of intersecting areas of focus. So electricity is becoming more and more the electrification of everything, right? More and more things are powered by electricity. The obvious example is EVs. I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, it's the most efficient form of electricity. There's a number of stats. There's a lot of discussion there. It's the most efficient form of energy, excuse me. It's also how renewable energy is produced, right? And I think today 6% of the electricity that's consumed comes from distributed energy resources. And over the next 15 years, that number is expected to multiply by 6. So as more and more DERs come online, we get better at using renewable sources of energy. We'll be just kind of by extension, we'll end up using more electricity at the point of consumption. The other rise is with digital, right? I think it's the $6 million man. We have the technology. So now we have ways to look at and understand and design around and then monitor the usage of electricity. So as we get more insights, it becomes more and more important to use that electricity efficiently. And this is all kind of under the umbrella of Electricity 4.0. So that's trend number 1. I think trend number 2 is the growing adoption of building information modeling, which this room is quite familiar with. I think the 30% stat is one that's thrown around a lot. Oftentimes you see if a building's designed in BIM, it's 30% more cost effective. It's 30% more sustainable. It's 30% more efficient. I think we can talk about the numbers, but I think all of us agree that BIM is here to stay. There's a lot of advantages to it, and that's obviously the core of our partnership with Autodesk. So now I'd like to introduce the solution itself that we call Advanced Electrical Design for Revit. Now I think there's a video, and there's supposed to be some music that plays with the video. Let's see if it starts. Okay, so just imagine like Back in Black is playing in the background. So I'll kind of give it a talk over, but this is this is the launch video that we showed last week for the first time ever at Autodesk University. And it's debuting, again, what we call Advanced Electrical Design for Revit. So what you'll see is electrical single line diagram, riser diagram, electrical layout drawings, all these deliverables that you used to have to either create manually as an electrical engineering consultant or go to a different tool. We can now pull that capability inside of the Revit environment. So it's the one-stop shop. It's going where our customers are and building workflows that they need within that tool. And again, at the heart of it is sustainability. So as you see as we go through it, one key aspect of it is the ability to design for the new energy landscape, which is designed for distributed energy resources, make sure the microgrid schematic will pencil, things like this that you used to have a dedicated tool or, again, pull out the TI-89 calculator and figure it out. Now you can do it inside of Revit. So just a quick glimpse at our roadmap. A number of the things here that you see are key deliverables of an engineering consultant. The power scenarios, the load letter, cable sizing, cable schedules, the single line diagram itself, and a lot of the activities, such as power scenarios, such as arc flash analysis. These are all functions of other tools, and now we're just bringing them into the Revit environment. So to any of the engineering consultants in the room, I definitely would like your feedback on this slide, and we can connect later on in the day. But I wanted to walk through just 4 value propositions, each with a short video, and then we can finish up and open it up to questions. So the first aspect is it's a BIM-based electrical design solution, I think, as we've hit on. We're already working in BIM a lot of the time, increasingly so, and now we're pulling in connectivity between the electrical schematic and the other deliverables around the electrical piece of a design scope. Thank you, Ian. So again, just imagine like Stairway to Heaven's playing in the background. So what you'll see here is the creation of the BIM model. And I want to show those familiar with Revit exactly what it looks like. We won't spend too much time if the video is not working. Should we pass? Okay, so this is core Revit capability. Defining the buses. Okay, it's not going to work. That's all good. Thank you. So what it shows is the translation from the core basic Revit, just the standard Revit issue license. And then there's a button at the top called Advanced Electrical Design. You click that, it goes over to the single line diagram view that we saw in the previous video. Again, you can create the single line diagram. You can automate the deliverables. These are things that take time. This is real time that an engineering consultant has to charge to a project, and now we're hopefully shortening the amount of time that they need to spend. And then we'll get over to compliance. So we're familiar with NFPA, we're familiar with NEC. These are electrical compliance standards that we need to meet. Oftentimes it's kind of a manual process to do the calculations to keep up with the somewhat variable standards that we need to comply with. And they're changing, especially with more and more strict sustainability standards and building efficiency standards. Now we can bake that compliance into the tool itself. So again, you're designing in the tool, and then the tool is telling you, do you comply, do you not comply with the current standards? And then to bring it full circle, we're enabling the design around advanced solutions. So using the most advanced tool today for this type of design work. And that's exactly where the sustainability story lives with the new energy landscape. There's a number of disparate tools for designing a microgrid, for seeing if the microgrid pencils economically. And now you can do that inside of the Revit environment. And I want to see the view. Hopefully this video plays. Because what it shows is the creation of a electrical scheme. And then we're running different scenarios here of weather patterns, of different inputs that you can customize. And it's showing how the different loads will ramp up and ramp off depending on the situation, to optimize for cost, to optimize for on time, for whatever optimization scheme is needed. Again, we're bringing that capability right into Revit. So I wanted to kick off questions by, again, calling on our friends at Miller Electric. We at Schneider Electric have worked many years with Miller, and we definitely value the partnership. But I wanted to hear from you about how, from your perspective, BIM modeling has become a core part of what you're doing and the journey that you've been on. And tell us what kind of prompted the interest in BIM, the adoption of tools like Layout Fast, and how you're doing that with your customers.
We are, of course, a large electrical contractor and do a lot of work in the traditional design, bid, build environment. But that's not really where we got BIM active, so to speak. In a
obvious labor shortage environment that everybody lives in, we started looking at off-site construction, pre-construction, gosh, 10, 12 years ago. In order to do that, we got to have a physical model, you know, so we got into BIM from that standpoint for our own purposes so that we could then construct off-site a big portion of our projects. General contractors, of course, and some owners have come along with that same mindset, and it makes the work a lot easier. But really for us, it was originally driven from the standpoint of us being able to construct and meet schedules, quite honestly. We had owners generating schedules that were, you know,
ambitious.
Ambitious.
Yep.
And that's, you know, we've never, it's interesting because over the years we've heard people, you know, BIM will make you more efficient, you'll make more money, you'll do this, and well, of course, as a contractor, there never seems to be more money being made at any given phase. That's just reality. But we were able to deliver projects in a fashion and in a time frame that other contractors were telling was impossible. And it's like, well, it's not impossible. You just simply have to move where you do construction. So that's really the area where we've concentrated. Excited to see this because, of course, we're an ETAP customer as well, and this is, you know, the digital
and how they combine.
Maintain is kind of the bigger environment we live in, which is the maintenance side.
Exactly. Cool. Thank you. All righty. Well, that's the runtime that I had, and I'd love to take any questions or comments. Sir.
How do you see this implemented when it comes to signing and sealing a drawing? If a lot of it, because it comes down to liability, right? And who at the end will take the liability when they sign and seal with advanced electrical design?
I think it's a good question, right? That's sort of the reason that I point to a lot for kind of slowness to adopt collaborative tools in our industry, right? It's kind of escaping the burden and whose name's on the drawing.
Right.
I think what we've done here is we've sort of leaned in a little bit and put a lot of what otherwise would have fallen on the engineering consultant into a tool. So maybe it presents kind of I think what you're getting at, it presents an opportunity for them to say, well, the tool told us, you know, the tool is responsible for the design more than we are. I think we're trying to create better tools for the market to make everything more efficient at the engineering and design phase. So hopefully that's not something that kind of comes back and creates risk. I think the goal here is just to improve the industry as a whole. But it's a good point. I guess I'd say it's an unknown as this is a brand new tool.
I mean, definitely, if you're coming in and taking some liability, you're making it a lot easier to implement. So
Just saying, Schneider's not officially taking the flag.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's back up that tape. But if
you think about it, you know, the engineering, our whole industry is going to retire. You know, 70% of our industry is going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, and there's more construction demands, more digitization, and that kind of stuff. So there's going to have to be, we're kind of pushing, Schneider's pushing the envelope here a little bit. But something's got to give, because you just don't have enough trained design, professionals coming up through the ranks. And the ones that are coming up through the ranks are going, why do I have to manually, draw this one line? I just did it over here. I just did a panel schedule over here. Why do I have to add it also to the one line over here?
Mm-hmm.
And advanced electrical design, the name that I'm practicing, is it says, you did it over here. Here's the same thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can add to that because we've got professional electrical engineers that work in our CAD BIM department. Like our department leader is a registered professional electrical engineer. So we're starting to see a lot of those design, bid, build contracts get an early award electrical as design assist. So if we've got a PD on our side of the table, they have a PD on their side of the table, we're using this tool because we need the BIM model for prefab to speed the schedule up. We're feeding it back to the electrical engineer to say, do you still want to take ownership of it? If you don't, we will, but you're hired as the consultant. You're technically the engineer of record, but rest assured, we're not some hack electrical contractor that's sketching this up. We're also professional engineers as well.
Yeah.
It's just they have to take ownership of the final product, and if they're willing to do that because we're not a trunk slammer, then that whole circle of life stays intact. But I don't think they would if it was just some guy, you know, working out the trunk of his car.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, and I would just add, so we're a consulting engineering firm too, and so we've worked in a number of capacities. What it comes down to is, you know, we use different programs. We have our own program, we have other programs we use in our firm. But in the end, you have to be able to take responsibility for it, understand what calculations were made, and then, you know, QC processes still apply, whether it's automated or done manually. And I mean, I guess from my point of view, I don't see that as a huge, you know, barrier to adoption. I'm sure some engineers would look at that a little bit differently, but I think there's a, you know, if it, obviously it's the first time I've seen it too, and I know we had a lot of people at Autodesk University last week.
Okay,
so,
good. Yeah, they saw it.
Curious to hear what they think about it too.
Yeah, I would love the feedback. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably bigger liability in a flat two-dimensional drawing going into a coordination process, right? That's where you really start to have some design problems. And if the engineer's errors and omissions look anything like an architect's, I wouldn't worry about it.
To add to that, they only plan on delivering 60% of the design anyway. They're going to rely on the contractor to
Fill in the rest.
But I have an actual question.
Sure.
So are you guys doing SKUs and like actual like devices and that type of stuff in there? And is that what's feeding into estimating and also the digital twin?
So the entire portfolio will ultimately be built on top of a common data environment, and we'll populate that with assets, you know, building product materials, a library.
But
So
you're not loading that into the geometry of the objects and making the record models super heavy?
no, we are, but hopefully without making the models too heavy. We've for years had a tool called Layout Fast, which is an online library of our Schneider Electric products that the feedback is that they're not overly weighted just because of the way that we create them, but they're packed with the correct dimensions, right? All in the effort to take up the right amount of space in that electrical room, so we don't over-engineer the size of the building. And then with that, you've got the commercial information, lead time information, all the metadata that would come with that. So we envision building that out for a number of manufacturers as well, to maintain it as a vendor-agnostic library.
So does vendor agnostic also mean RIB agnostic, or does that mean that you're still going to want to feed through that estimating software? Like, will you be integrating to like all the other estimating possibilities?
So once it's in the model, if I'm understanding correctly, the estimating tool should be able to pull out the bill of material.
If there's a table of estimating tool that is also corresponds to your SKUs and your costs.
Right. I
There
think
has to be like this database that you can use in the other places to connect the costs.
sure, so that it translates over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of us kind of having the full portfolio together is we can ensure that translation is possible. So I think any comments on the cost X side or on the RIB side from estimation?
I mean, other than the fact that it would be something that's, you know, worth considering in the process going forward. I mean, they're not currently integrated, so
Yeah.
no, they are not. But obviously, being that we're the same company, it would make sense to make it a roadmap as a review for, you know, if there are any questions.
make estimating and pricing quicker.
Yep. Yeah, that's good feedback.
We definitely are in data enclosures for a second. We are in other software as well, so, you know, as far as the electrical equipment. So we try to feed into these other databases, but there are, you know, Trimble's got their own database.
Oh, we're there,
RB
yeah.
has their own database, so there's not like any universal thing out there, which, you know, maybe somebody should invent that.
It's called the integration software, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Good deal. Any other questions, comments? Okay, well, I appreciate the attention and thank you, KP, for having us. Appreciate it. Thank you for answering the question.